over his process for NHL, both in general and as applied to this slate. Hopefully, he'll be doing some more of these. For those of you who don't know him, I mean, I've known him a long time. He's started off one of the great learners that I know, and he's become quite an expert in his own right. He's very analytical. He uses, it's not embarrassed to say that he uses external tools, and he knows how to use them. And just like me, he's learning every day, just getting better every day. And hopefully he can share some of his wisdom and all that with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Sheets. I'm going to go through the process on SaberSim. I mean, the amount of stuff I do in SaberSim is really small. Some of the process, like I did the video earlier, we got kind of screwed up, but I talked about how part of my routine is I listen to an NHL betting podcast called Edgework. I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah.
Give a shout out to these guys. They come highly recommended. They're well known in the betting space. And you say, Adam, like, you're a guy who just trusts the Sims and you trust the projections, and I am. However, so why trust touts, you'd say? And I said, when you listen to these guys and they give a bet out, the market moves, which to me is indicating that, like, hey, there's something to it, right? Their opinion's highly respected. And I hear them on the kind of sports betting podcast, especially this guy, So Money, gets a lot of respect around the industry. His bets move the market. So I like to listen to them on 2X every morning. They come in around 9:30 Central, and just get an idea for if they like any particular teams, or if they're high on an over. They're pretty price sensitive. So obviously, being above the median on an over is not the same as the range of outcomes we need for DFS. But likewise, or on the other hand, DFS is a derivative off the betting markets, and that is baked into some of the DK salaries. So let
me interrupt you for a second. What do you do with that? In other words, as I do that sometimes with MMA, with MMA, pretty much everything is baked into the line as far as projections go. But if a tout or a expert I respect thinks that an inside the distance line is off, I'll be more inclined to even play that in DFS. But as a practical matter, do you use that information to break ties? Do you actually up the projections at all? How do you make use of that?
Use it to break ties.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
You can't overweight that, because the problem is they're not playing DFS.
Right.
So they're not aware of the pricing you're subjected to, right?
Right.
So, yesterday these guys thought the over was mispriced and had value on New Jersey. She say, Adam, you didn't play New Jersey. Well, why didn't I play New Jersey? Well, because the DraftKings pricing was still real high. So I would have loved to say, hey, they think there's a bit of a mistake, and maybe that's not baked into the projections. But it doesn't mean you can necessarily fit them or play them in the right way with the right correlations and the right lineup construction to make it work in DFS. But it is a tiebreaker. It is something I want to know. And I want to be able to add value to these projections, because everyone has good projections.
Yeah.
Like you were on with James McCool, right? And they're doing amazing hockey stuff, right? SaberSim does amazing hockey stuff. Stochastic has amazing hockey stuff. So as much as I'm a trust the projections guy, I want to have points where I could add some value to it. And I'll talk about that a little when I go through the process that I follow, which is a pretty Spartan bear one. But yeah. That's my thought on it. The other thing I'll add, and I think this is good, to listen to any daily show, is it may not help you that much in terms of how your lineups are going to be built, but you do get things from around the league, like injuries, and someone may be day to day, somebody may not play, somebody may be a late scratch, a late in. That we were talking about this in Discord, what if Barkov's out? Then Florida becomes this cheap stack. And so you could kind of like account for those in your building process too. So as someone who doesn't know much about hockey at all, it is good to be kind of tuned into those things. And listening to a 40-minute podcast on 2X is well worth the price, given how much I'm going to be investing in these. So
One thing you could do, Adam, you see on your screen where it says Studio Scream IO is sharing your screen?
Yeah. Am I not sharing?
Click hide. See that little hide?
Oh, okay.
That'll hide that button at least.
Oh, okay. So now I hide.
No, you see where it says on the bottom, Studio Stream in the middle.
Oh, this.
Hide.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It just adds just a little more room to the screen.
Cool.
You can see. All right, great.
Yeah. So I recommend this just to summarize that. These guys are pretty good. They're highly recommended. They do move the market. You'll see it move during the show. Now, it's a popular show, and hockey's not the most liquid market. So it could be some public money moving the market, but I don't think so. I think that they're given a lot of respect. And I hear people who I believe in giving them respect. So big shout out to them. It may be a betting show, but it's a big part of my DFS process. So going to the process, the first thing I do, and you've talked about this before, and you've talked about it recently, is I really respect correlation, like probably more than you, because I don't even like to play the four-man stacks. I talked about this in the first video I did. I've always had the most success in the small field stuff, so I'm not doing the larger field stuff where I need to catch as many outliers as I can. I'm playing the 100-man, the 100 to 200 mans. Sometimes I'll play like the real little stuff. And I'm usually playing 2 to 4 lineups a day. I've had the most success with it from a real life and post-contest simulated ROI perspective. So I just decided that's where I'm going to invest my time and money in hockey. It also, you'll see some of my process is a bit hands-on, so it gives me some chance at that. So back to the correlation, because of that, don't even really care to play the 4-3 stacks. So my process, I'll start a new screen. My process starts by going to stack exposure and zeroing out everything other than 5-man and 6-man stacks. I just think if I'm not going to play them, why build them? You made a good point. Well, you want to see, if the builder is just going to say, no, you're going to get 20, 30% of the 4s and 4 one-offs, or you're going to get, you need to know that. But I guess my question to you is if the builder says that, are you going to play them?
No.
Yeah. And neither am I. So I this is another one of those where you say, well, you're just doing projections. You just trust the projections and the sims. And I know bettering. I'm IKBing the stack stuff and going with 5+.
Now, are you allowing 5 zeros?
Yeah, I'm allowing 5 zeros.
Okay.
I'm willing to play a 5-0. I prefer a 5-2, but it gives them. I find that it gives the builder some flexibility to put in like a real cheap guy to get up to another guy. So that's what I'm going to do. And the only other thing I change really is because I'm playing the small field stuff and the high dollar stuff is I'm going to build using ownership that's supposed to be closer to it.
That's pretty sharp. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if I were only playing like one set of if I was only playing big field, I would definitely do that. And I should do that more. That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah, I don't see any. That seems if that ownership's going to be closer to what I'm playing, then I want to build on it. And I'm going to go close to their settings. I'm okay with the correlation setting's not as big a deal because I'm forcing it to have correlation anyway. Right. But I want to get some variety, so I'm going to build on 9. And then I'm just going to build them. And while it's going, I'll set up the sims. Now, I'll set up one for like the 4-4-4 and one for the 2-2-2. And then sometimes I'll play this like $100 really small single entry, and I'll just play like the highest projected 5 or 6 man stack that I have. They're like 10 to 20 people contests. I find that people are like throwing in cash lineups and stuff. And even then, when only 3 places get paid, I just don't think that's right. So I just think I have a big advantage of those. Now, SaberSim does not have those preloaded.
Yeah.
So I just, you can make a sim for it, which I'll do sometimes just to see how it goes. But what I'm inclined to usually do is just play the highest projected 5 or 6 man that comes up. And I've had pretty good success with those. That being said, I can't check my Sklansky box, right? Because SaberSim doesn't have it. So intuitively, though, I think I'm doing well in those. So still going. One of the things I did before, I'll do it again, is, you do this with your sheets. You can do them is see who's coming up in the value. You could say, oh, well, Detroit's probably going to come up a lot, right? Because they're good value stacks or good value plays. So you'd think you get a lot of Detroit. Let's see. So I'll run these sims.
So you won't even look at the lineups before you run the sims.
Oh no, I'm gonna look. I just figured I hit the button now.
Okay.
So, but I'm not gonna look at like 200 lineups, right? Because these are like 5 max, 3 max,
right?
Type of contest, right? So I just want to see like who's coming up in the top 10.
Yeah.
Using their Saber score, see projected. So like, if you just use their Saber score, and you get a lot of Colorado, almost all Colorado, and it's a pretty good indication of where the field might go. I found. I already had them loaded, so it doubled them. That's fine. So if we sort in the 4-4, it's gonna like right now it likes New York and Utah in the 4-4-4, and in the 2-2-2. It's really strange how sometimes you get pretty different results, but it's way more spread out here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's it's a smaller field. It's like 100 as opposed to like 140, and oftentimes it really changes it, and I don't know why.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Hockey's just wild like that.
It really is.
Baseball's like that too, though. And
I didn't. It's funny. You don't know that until you try it, right? Because I asked you a question about that.
Yeah.
And then you went through your process with different projections, same simming against the same fields, and got something completely different from me.
Totally different.
Yeah. So it is wild. One of the things though I do like to do is like look at like what's the ROI of the first lineup. So the theoretical ROI is 47.5. What's the theoretical ROI of the 10th? Like, is it so low? I mean, it's a 13% drop, which I don't think is that big given the variance in the sims.
Okay.
So you're probably like, as you would say, within your rights to play any one of these,
right,
and not give up much. Now, here's why you have to play. You either have to know something or play DFS day in and day out, or listen to people on podcasts like that. So the first team that comes up is Dallas, and it's going to want to stack mostly the power play. So two things about this lineup. First, not all power plays are created equal. Some teams tend to leave their guys out for the full 2 minutes. Some teams are very strict about giving their guys half the power play time. One of those teams is Dallas. Now, I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong that SaberSim and most optimizer products treat all power plays roughly the same. But the Dallas power play is not the same as like the Buffalo power play, where they tend to stay on the full 2 minutes. And so its upside is limited to less than what it thinks. Second thing, Lane Hudson is on power play 1. Now that makes him even better. But you can note there's no Montreal stacks here. And given it's true they have a low total, but another reason is they have a pretty expensive D-man listed as being on power play 1 from SaberSim, which is Matheson, and he's 1,400 more, which makes the stack a little bit more expensive. And you don't get much of them. We got 5% in the pool. However, if you go to natural hat trick, which is
Now,
like
what's natural hat trick?
Okay, so natural hat trick is like popcorn machine,
Okay.
but for NHL.
Okay.
Okay, so we could see people's ice time on off, etc. And if you go to the last Montreal Canadiens game, you will see if we go to shift chart, it's a little slow. Okay, so like this shaded area is the power plays. So now Montreal's power play, Caulfield, Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Line, Hudson, power play 1, not power play 2. Now I think that like Goldie's projections has this right. But if you just upload them into SaberSim, its correlation matrix is going to think Matheson is power play 1. And that's going to make the value of the Montreal stacks a lot weaker. So that is the type of thing I think about. I don't think it matters here. Right? I mean, Hudson's the one-off. So don't let that like be a comment on this lineup specifically, but it's the type of thing I look for. And it's the type of thing I'm going to do sometimes with these value plays. Like if we sort by value, we're going to see Marco Kasper is the second best value. Now, if he shows up in one of my lineups. So let's say I wanted to play this lineup and it gave me Kasper. Is he the value that they say he is? Well, I happen to know by going to natural hat trick that he really only got one shift with the first power play in his first game. The other shifts were taken by someone else. So that is like a pretty important thing to know, and especially if we wanted to play Detroit. So those are some of the like.
Well, what's really revealing, and I want to let you go. I could have interrupted.
Yeah, I gotta go.
No. What I'm saying is, I was going to interrupt you like 15 times with the same question.
Yeah.
That you've given the answer to, and whenever somebody talks about what you've been talking about, I always ask, well, isn't that in the projection, right? And apparently, from what you're telling me, maybe just because it's hockey, whatever, and people, and the SaberSim and the other companies don't put in the work, right? That stuff is left off. That there'll be that the fact that they'll only go in for half a shift, or the fact that all power play ones are not created equal, and all that stuff. Maybe that isn't in fact factored in. So if you do know puck, or at least know how to access people who do know puck, right? Or if you know how to go to the websites that know puck, maybe there's actually a fundamental edge in doing that. So that in itself is great value.
I believe there is, and I think we talked about this a long time ago. Like there is value in playing day in and day out, and having a repeatable process, even the content part of the process.
Yeah.
Day in and day out.
Yep.
And I learned that from when I had time to play NBA.
Yep.
You cannot just play NBA. I mean, you can, and you might do okay, but I don't think you could just play NBA 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
And I think the same goes for hockey. And look, the same doesn't go for hockey, except that DFS is getting harder and harder.
Yep.
And the less edge there is, then the more you're going to have to pick up micro edges and no puck things. So 3 years ago, I mean, this may have been completely irrelevant. You build with good stack correlation, and maybe you miss a couple things here and there, and you're fine because the field wasn't sharp enough.
Well, not only that, but it goes. But one leads to the other. You complain that, oh shoot, man, for first prize only $5K, right? And then they say, okay, now it's $20K. So you know what just happened? The field just got harder because now everybody's gonna want to play it.
That's right. Yeah, totally, dude. So let's look at like. See, I'm getting it in the pool. You get a lot of Detroit because of all that value, but it doesn't want you to play them because it probably thinks the ownership's high or something. But like, let's just see a Detroit stack. You got to be careful with this too. Like if you get Detroit stacks or you want to play Detroit stacks, is it putting in this Kasper? Okay, no, not here. But it is funky correlation, right? So here you've got this 5-man Detroit. You've got Larkin 1-1. DeBrincat and Kane are on EV2 power play 2. they correlate with Tarasenko and Larkin, but like it's not the full correlation of the power play. And they'll correlate a bit with this D-man. I will say, like, I'm more open to this and to smaller stacks in the large field stuff, but I just want to soak up as much production from like the high upside guys that correlate together in the small stuff, field stuff. And you might say, well, you took these 5 guys and they don't all correlate on the EV, and if the power play doesn't score, you didn't get it. Well, like then I'll lose, right?
Right.
But the power play, according to everyone, is the highest upside opportunity. Then that's what I want to optimize for. So it's something to watch out for, and it's something to watch out for in your stacks. I mean, I'm surprised this Casper. Maybe you just don't need the value. Here's one, right? So this Casper, I'm going to go after this, but it's going to give you him to let you get to Kaprizov and Makar and Zuccarello, right? And Zuccarello is mid-price, and then Makar and Kaprizov are high price. So you plug in all this Detroit value, right? Well, beware, because let's look at Detroit's. This Marco Casper is a rookie, and he played in his first game in their last game, which is 2 games ago against Philly. So now let's look and see what he got in terms of power play time. I mean, I happen to know he got some, but it's a bit dubious, right?
Right. That's what you said before, sort of. Yeah.
So first power play they go DeBrincat, Kopp, Kane, Tarasenko, Gustafsson.
Yep.
And then you get Casper on power play 2. So he didn't correlate with those guys. Then they come in and take a short shift in their next power play, and he does get power play 1. And so I suppose they list him as power play 1 because the last time they had a power play, he got that time. That was his first game. So he didn't get it the first chance. He got it the second chance. That's pretty iffy value, I'd say. Call me wrong. Maybe there's something, if you know Detroit and you hear coach speak or something. I don't know. Or he's a good prospect.
Let me give a little color because Adam has to go. So normally Adam would spend more time, and I'll just give you guys a little behind the scenes. Adam actually did like a full hour breakdown of his whole process or whatever, but due to technical difficulties, the whole thing got erased. So rather than just deleting it and never doing it again, I suggested maybe that he just do something short because I know he has to go right now, but in the future he will take a little more time and do it. And obviously there's a lot of his process that we still need to get through, but we don't want a tiny Adam Perry waiting at school with the sign up. Where's my daddy? So I'm gonna let you go. But thank you, and you'll see much more of Adam. And good luck, everybody.